may not be the best in the English language or have the best memory in the world, but at least we have 100%. That counts for something, right? Hello guys, this is UniversalGiant. Welcome back to AM2R. Last time, we finished off all the cleanup that we had to do, mostly up in the industrial complex and the distribution center, and made our way all the way down to this corner of the planet, where we found the search and rescue team still alive until a Zeta evolved into an Omega Metroid. And I have a feeling we haven't seen the last of them. But in the meantime, let's just see how much further into the planet we can get, and hopefully nothing too massive, destructive, or any other bad adjectives that I can come up with to describe potential enemies we'll be facing down here will make their presence known. Although I have a feeling they probably will. Also, more shortcuts. This game has a lot of shortcuts. I think just up here, right? Yep, just up here. And things are getting darker. Also, more shortcuts! Yeah, you can go right to left to right to left to right to get through there, or you can just shine spark up it. Sure makes things easier. But we've entered a brand new area, the Nest. This area is infested with thick, globe-like masses composed mostly of crystallized carbohydrates. Those that have yet to harden are constantly moved by the airflow created from the slightest motion of nearby creatures. Only the most adaptable life forms can thrive in this ecosystem. Take a guess what those most adaptable life forms are. Now, there are a couple of small blocks in the middle of this shaft. All of them can be destroyed with the screw attack. And they have little enemies flying back and forth here that will resupply you with ammunition if you need it. The direction that we actually want to progress forward, and I'll spoil this on you now, there are 3 shafts to the left and to the right. The one lowest down is the one that has the path forward, but we have to do something along all 3 before we can take it, so that'll be the last one that I do. And again, you probably have an idea what's coming. Hi, buddy. Now, another interesting thing about the Omega Metroids is that they have, and you'll see when it jumps, it has a little green spot on its back. That green spot you can attack. And if you manage to hit it while you're jumping over it, it does, I think, double damage? It does a higher amount of damage. I forget exactly how much more damage it does. But it does a decent amount more damage if you can hit it. It's just more difficult to hit it there. But again, unlike the Zeta Metroids, where its hitbox was level with your line of level with your line of fire if you were just standing on the ground, the Omega Metroids is 1 block higher than yours. So in order to hit it in its stomach, you're going to have to jump a little bit. Just enough to get 1 block of extra height. So that's why you see me jumping like an idiot in order to hit it, because that's what you have to do in order to hit it. And these guys, if you're full on everything else, the enemies should be guaranteed to drop super missiles, I'm pretty sure. So what I like to do is go all the way up to the top, kill as many of these as I can as I'm making my way back down. I mean, you could fill up at the bottom if you want, since there is a save point at the bottom of the shaft. and you don't absolutely need supers to beat these things, but they make fighting them a heck of a lot easier. And as I mentioned before, you only get a small amount of super missiles and power bombs given how strong they are in this game. So unlike other Metroid games where you had more super missiles and more power bombs than you knew what to do with, AM2R, since they're so precious, so useful, you don't get nearly as many of them. So you have to be careful with the ones you do have. And usually if you're stuck in a corner, he'll back off. Now, one thing you do want to be careful of, especially if you're going to be using the crawl spaces for shelter, is that you don't allow him to knock you out of the arena if you're in the middle of fighting him. Because obviously, if you leave the arena during that time, he will regain his health when you come back. So it's something you're going to want to take extra care not to do. I mean, you've probably been doing that already. Making sure that you don't accidentally leave the arena during a fight if you don't want the boss regaining its health. But especially true with Omega Metroids, you don't want to have to refight them if you don't have to. But as I mentioned before, the path forward is actually down here. And in order to get through here, we're going to have to defeat all of the Omega Metroids in the area. The last of whom is in this area. So again, if you can lure him over to the side and then prompt him to do his flamethrower, that's usually the easiest time you have to jump over him and hit him on his back. And no, the Zeta Metroids did not have that spot on their back that you could have hit. Only the Omegas have it. But as you can see, now that we've defeated the 3 Omega Metroids, we can make our way down here. So again, question becomes, how much deeper do we have to go? As you can imagine, this final stretch of the game is rather long. Again, not necessarily because the game was originally this long with its tunnels. I mean, it was still a bit of a jog to get from the starting point of the area to where we are now and where we're going. But it's again worth remembering that AM2R, in an effort to have a proper map that actually made sense, did have to make a lot of the hallways and tunnels longer, so that rooms in the original map no longer overlapped with each other. Now that we've made it out of the nest, it looks like we're back in a normal-looking cave system. Got some waterfalls going on here. And as we head up, we'll notice that these tend to loop around a bit. Now, as you're going through these, I prefer not to show it off, but I'll instead just explain to you. If you set foot in some of those pools, you do not actually have ground there to stop you from falling down to the previous level. So some of them have ground, but not all of them. And I'd rather not test out which ones fall down, because I'd rather not fall down and do it again. As we make our way through this tunnel, you can definitely feel the tension building. Feels like we're approaching the end. I think you could also build up a Shine Spark and then just go straight up here. Or you can jump the old-fashioned way. And before we tackle this area, there is one other thing I want to bring your attention to that was added in the last version of the game to be released. This tunnel. Now, had we gone through here before, there would have been a wall blocking our way here, so we wouldn't have been able to go through. However, this shortcut brings us all the way back to the place whose name I can never remember. The Hydro Station, there we go. And if you're so inclined, you may remember that there's this wall here that takes us back down to the tower, which leads to another chute that takes us all the way back to the distribution center. So if you're still hunting for 100% completion with your items, it's really, really handy to have this little shortcut here that takes you all the way back from this final area that we had to go through this enormous tunnel system to get through. Instead, you can just take a chute that goes all the way back to the Hydro Station. So this thing, if you reach the end and don't have 100%, is a godsend. And I'm really happy they added it back. But unfortunately, we don't have enough time to tackle this area today. Next time? Next time.